Good afternoon. We have a lively group today. That's great. I love it. As long as you stop when I start talking. Otherwise, I don't love it so much. Thank you, Bob. Welcome to the February 24th meeting of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. I am President Catherine Staub, and we are absolutely delighted to have you here today. Rich, come on up. Rich Leopold has signed up to give us a moment of inspiration, followed by the pledge and the four-way test. You too can lead us in a moment of inspiration. All you need to do is sign up.
Thank you. So I had something I was going to do, and then the events of the last 24 hours kind of changed my mind, right? And so when I was young, we were just talking about it at the table here. So I was in the military, the Army National Guard, and I was raised in a modest Midwest family. We didn't have money for me to go to college, so I joined the National Guard. I really didn't have a strong sense of patriotism or anything like that. I was in Boy Scouts and stuff like that, but when I went into the Army, I learned, it was disturbing to me to first learn how to do harm to other people, and then to realize that other people were learning and practicing on how to do harm to me. And I came to understand patriotism for the first time, knowing who my tribe is and what my tribe's beliefs are and believing in them myself. Later in life, I did a lot of world travel. I went to a lot of different places, and I went to some places that still bore scars. I went to Lithuania and Vietnam and Croatia and places like that. And I talked to people who were on the other side and learned a lot about the human cost of warfare and things like that. And they, the same as we are, were thinking about paying their mortgage, going to their sister's wedding, if their kids were going to graduate, those kind of things. So as I came into this today, I was thinking, we're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance and the lessons of patriotism, and really taking it to heart what it means to live in this country and have the freedoms that we do. And then when we do the four-way test, thinking about a human element and how we all as humans have common needs, desires, and how that translates into a four-way test. So with that, let's do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Four-way test.
Is the truth, is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And say hi, shake elbows, whatever you do with people nearby.
It's good to meet you, Steve. Good talk. Oh, thank you. A little bit nervous. No, not at all.
Oh, I'm sorry I couldn't say it because I had to go receive a That's all right, we have guests to welcome today, but first a big happy birthday to my colleague at Drake, Dan Conley. Is Dan here today? No, he's not here. I will take birthday wishes back to Drake with me. We have 5 guests today. If you would each stand as I introduce you. Eric is a guest of Paul Purpose. Welcome. Kevin is a guest of Kevin Kassir. Welcome, Kevin. Sean is a guest of Abai Nadipuram. Welcome. Joshua is a guest of Jason Stuyvesant. Welcome. And Steve is a guest of Lynette Rasmussen. We are delighted to have each and every one of you with us here today, and we hope you decide to make this a permanent thing by joining our club. Next, we have a new member introduction. Andy Bretz is a returning member to the Rotary Club of Des Moines, and we are thrilled that he is back. So we asked him 5 questions. You've got a free day. What would we find you doing? And Andy says biking, hiking, house projects, spending time with his wife. Really depends on the season. And with weather like this, not sure really what to do. Second question, where in the world have you traveled and can't wait to go back? Israel. He's been there 5 times and even got married there. And he's going back in 2023. Someday we'll have to hear the story of the wedding in Israel. Next question, what's the best piece of advice you've ever been given? Pray first. Next question, what talent or skill do you possess that might surprise or delight people? And he delivered some of this at our table. Is sarcasm a skill? I'm not sure anyone is delighted by it, but I've been surprised. Yeah, like I said, he demonstrated a little bit at the table. And the last question, you're joining Rotary. Again, what can't you wait to tell your friends about our organization? I am so glad to be back. And Andy, we are thrilled that you are back, so welcome. Thank you to President-elect Matt and his wife Betsy for throwing a lovely February fling last Thursday. Thank you to all of you who were able to attend. It was a wonderful time. Matt is partaking in Rotary President-elect training today, and that's why he's not with us today. But if you were there or if you weren't, make sure you check out the photos. There's a link to the photo album with our Tuesday bulletin. The Rotary Club of Des Moines Hiking Fellowship has an outing scheduled for a week from Saturday, March 5th. We're going to meet at 11 a.m. at Captain Roy's at Birdland Marina. We have no idea what the weather will be like, so we're either going to hike or snowshoe or, I don't know, sludge through mud, something. But regardless, we will have fun, and we hope that you will be there. If you are going to attend, please RSVP to Denise Essman so we know to wait for you before we embark on our hike. All right, and now past President Mike Lemaire is going to introduce our program. Mike?
Kind of a jumble up here on the floor. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker. I can tell you from sitting over here for the last half hour visiting, he is very entertaining. His background on February 21st, 2018, Marshal Ted G. Comanche was nominated by President Donald Trump to serve as a U.S. Marshal in the Southern District of Iowa. He was sworn in as a U.S. Marshal on March 15, 2018. Prior to his role with the U.S. Marshal Service, Marshal Comanche served from December of 1987 to January of 2017 as Sheriff of Marshall County, Iowa. He began his law enforcement career in 1976. While attending both Mankato State University, taking criminal justice, and Mankato Area Vocational Center in Waterville and St. Peter, Minnesota Police Departments. In 1980, he joined the Marshalltown, Iowa Police Department, where he served as an officer and investigator. Excuse me. In December of 1987, he was appointed to complete the term of former Sheriff Bud Gonzalez as Sheriff of Marshall County, Iowa. In November of 1998, he was elected as Marshall County Sheriff to what would be the first of his 7 four-year terms in office. He has served in leadership positions for various organizations at the local, state, and federal level. Over his 40-year-plus career, Ted has received multiple awards for Officer of the Year, Administrator of the Year, and various other professional commendations. He has been called upon by schools of higher learning, national organizations, U.S. congressional committees, the Iowa State Legislature, Governor, and U.S. presidents to participate on a number of committees, study groups as a keynote speaker. His reputation for setting aside political partisanship in order to fulfill his responsibility on addressing issues at hand has been a cornerstone to his professional success. Marshall?
Thank you very much. No, I'm fine. Well, good night, everybody. Thanks. Take care. It's good to see you all. When they tell you to send in a bio, I didn't mean the whole darn thing, but thank you very much. I'm trying to think what the heck I can tell you about me now. So, first off, I want to thank you for the opportunity to come here. President, Mike, all the people at the table, it's been a pleasure and honor. When you look back, we had some nice conversation here. And all the troubled times we've seen over the last couple of decades and all the earth-shaking things that are going on even today, we really have to pause. Pretty much everybody in this room has been really honored and blessed with some success. That's why you're here. Rotary Club, this is a group that, I tell you, for a short little fat kid from Cleveland, Minnesota, originally, this is a great honor to come here to Des Moines. Top of the Ruan Building, Embassy Club, this is big time. It really makes me pause and wonder what the future's gonna hold. In my line of work as a law enforcement officer, as a cop, we started in the 70s. I was lucky to be able to begin with a lot of those old Vietnam vet types, the ones that drank too much, smoked too much, cussed too much, but still got the job done. They still had an understanding of looking at somebody and seeing into them and then being a mirror to them. I think that's just so important. And I think we as a society need to do more of that today. It's not about partisan rhetoric. It's not about race. It's not about religion. It's really about humanity. Now, I'm a Republican here saying that, so please bear with me on this. But I've been really lucky as a Republican. I was appointed by a democratically controlled board of supervisors to be their sheriff. We were talking before about my honor of going out and participating, being a president of some national organizations and participating a lot in Washington, D.C. And I have to tell you, Andy, I've only been to Israel 4 times, so you're one up on me. And no, I never got married there, so we'll just count that as one of them. But I've actually testified on the Hill more for Tom Harkin and Boswell than I have for Chuck or Ernst. I can't tell you how many times I really came up here when Tom Vilsack was governor and Culver was governor, and I didn't have to agree with them politically. I didn't have to agree with them, their core of their platform. That has nothing to do with being a cop. It has nothing to do with being a law enforcement officer. We could talk about that later on. It's what do we want to do to better our county, our city, our county, our state, our nation, or our world. World. That's a big thing today right now with what we're seeing happening. And those of you here who maybe poo-poo it or don't see anything happening right now, I need you to go back. And this is just an old 45-year-old, or 45-year-old, yeah, that's all I am, cop, short, fat guy with gray hair, and I want you to look in the mirror and ask why. Let's all hope. Let's all pray if that's what you want to do. Let's all just cross our fingers and say that we want it to all work out in the long run. We don't want $5 gas, and we don't want, all the bad things that the media keeps hyping on us. We want to have a successful and happy future for all of us and for all of those loved ones we have to follow us. We are already here. What the heck is tomorrow going to bring us? Well, I got way off and goofed up my whole talk to you already here, but I started in '76, you heard that, I talked about it. It's interesting to me because being the office of sheriff and being the United States Marshal, there's a lot of similarities. We both are full-line law enforcement entities. Now, by the way, just a side note, if I reach in my pocket and pull out a lozenge, I'm not trying to be rude. I had COVID about 5 weeks ago, and when I went in for my second test because my lungs were filling up, they said I had pneumonia. But I didn't have COVID anymore, so I guess I was okay. But it kind of stretched my voice box. 10 days ago, I had to squeak my way through this, just to let you know. So if I put one of these in my mouth, it's not to be rude. Those of you in the front row, you're on your own though, okay? The United States Marshal is a full-line law enforcement entity. It's the oldest law enforcement body in the federal government. It goes back to 1789 and the Judiciary Act, those of you who are attorneys in here. And President George Washington appointed the very first 13 marshals in this country. 13 states. Okay, just give you a little hint on that. Today there are 94 districts throughout the United States, all our territories. We've got people in Guam, Marianas, Puerto Rico. We have some offices in some other friendly nations. Friendly nations in the sense that we work together, maybe unfriendly because of some of the things that we see coming out of them. The United States Marshal Service is a broad and a full scope entity. Now it's not making light of the FBI or ATF or DEA. Those people are all friends of mine. As a young cop, later on as a sheriff, I've worked with all of them. I've served on committees. I was on the original CICC counterintelligence group. I had a SCC, top CTS SCI, and that's what took me to Israel, and took me to North Africa, and took me many places for Homeland Security. But we, the Marshal Service, handle not only investigations like the others do, we handle not only the sex crimes, not only the newest one, which is armed career criminals, but we also go ahead and we also search for fugitives. We handle all the search warrants, the arrest warrants for fugitives. We see it on TV all the time. We see, if you watch the movie The Marshals, U.S. Marshals, or with Tommy Lee Jones, or maybe some other movie that you've seen, you might have a better idea. But we also see a lot from the FBI, and they talk about, the Witness Protection Program. We do that program. That's a Marshals program. When I became sheriff, I really wasn't sure what that all entailed. What I found out about the office of sheriff was we were a full-line law enforcement entity. We did it all. We handled the investigative or criminal aspect of law enforcement, just like police departments do. We did all the accidents and investigations and homicides. We handled the correctional aspects of law enforcement. We ran the jails. We also did the civil processing and civil court securities portion of it. So we handled really all three aspects of the criminal justice system. The marshals do the same thing. Our divisions not only go ahead and handle investigations like I talked about, but we secure the courts. We defend and protect the judges and the whole court family. We make sure the buildings are secure. You'll see our court officers if you go by the federal courthouse where I'm located over here, off of Locust and Court, between over there. You'll find out that you'll see the guys walking around in their blue sport coats every so often. Those are our court security officers. When I was a sheriff, I had about a $6 million budget. I had about 90 employees. And now that I'm marshal, I have about twice as many employees between the individuals who are contracted and the individuals who are volunteers. But we handle a lot bigger budget. Here in the Southern District of Iowa, 47 counties. It includes the cities, of course, Council Bluffs, Des Moines, and Davenport, where I have offices, but also Ames and Marshalltown and Iowa City, Clinton. We average about 430 to 440 inmates in jail a day, and our budget here to house those federal prisoners is about $1.3 million that we spend. That's a little bit different than what I had in Marshall County. And the thing about most of our criminals here is almost all of our criminals have some sort of felony and some sort of tie to violence. Not all of them, but most of them do. That's our responsibility to monitor that. So we have judicial security, we have fugitive operations, the task forces, which I can say is the local, state, county, and local officers come and work for us, or signed in and work part-time for us, some full-time also, to work in our fugitive task forces, where we go serve warrants for the most hardcore wanted in federal. We go out and we've got one, we're gonna be going over to South Korea to pick up an individual, bring back. That's our fugitive operations. We have tactical operations. Tactical operations is our SWAT, our SOG, they call it, Special Operations Group, that we need. You know, we see all these communique and all this discussion today about how locals have got MRAPs, military tanks. We read about it all the time. Well, how many people here have been shot at? I have. When you're going up to a house to serve a warrant with somebody who's disillusioned or has a problem, having an armored vehicle go there is not a bad thing. I'm sorry. And if you think not, let me know and we'll go out back and I'll shoot at you later on and tell me what you think about that. They are not the tanks that have 50 cals on top. They don't have that. Oh, they may have AR-15s or that type of weapon, but that's to make sure that they can counter the aggression that they're going to get. Do me a favor. Media is a wonderful group of people. I have a lot of friends in it. So please weigh the facts. Look at both sides and try to eliminate the left or the right and look at the core of the problem. Prisoner operations we talked about, just like a sheriff. When I ran the facility at Marshall County, about 200 beds, we housed inmates for the ICE at that time. And we housed inmates for the marshals. Well, I think we had 439, I think, if I'm not mistaken, was a recent, almost 440 people, the last time I counted a couple days ago, that we had just in the Southern District here. And we house those people in our local jurisdictions. Polk County Jail has right around 180 to 190 of those people, and it fluctuates. Davenport, Muscatine, Potawatomi County. Our offices that we have in Council Bluffs and in Davenport, we also have inmates in those places. So it's a very, very important, very, very trying part. Very good, important, very important personnel. Prisoner transportation. At the national level, I was looking at some national statistics. Last year, inmate movements in the nation, 880,000 inmate movements in this nation. Just think of the cost behind that. We have a group called JPATS, which is somebody might have seen the movie Con Air that was out one time. Well, we fly about 120,000 inmates a year. The balance are hauled by bus. It's a very expensive undertaking, but it's a necessity when you're dealing at the national level. A little different than being Marshall County Sheriff or Polk County Sheriff and only have to take them 100 miles. But it's a reality of a big expense. We also have asset forfeiture. You know, a lot of people look at asset forfeiture and they think, oh my gosh, you're double penalizing the offender. You're not only going after them for criminal, but now you're going after their well-being. You're taking away from the mouths of their children. Listen, if you've been victimized, you probably have a better understanding of this. Asset forfeiture takes away the goods from the illegal activity. The guy who goes out, or the lady who goes out and buys illegal and expensive property, or puts a lot of illegal or expensive money or jewelry into a bank account in order to fund more criminal activity, they have a right to come back and they have a right to go ahead and counter that and argue that where the money came from. And sometimes they get their money back or their assets. But those who don't, who can't prove it, should lose it. And what we do there is we in turn then gave, like last year, about $190 million out to victims who got their money back. About $290 million to local and county and state officers and entities and task forces, so that they now can do a better job for you locally. So please always look at that deeper. Judicial security, 2,600 judges in this country, about 700 judicial security facilities that we have to monitor. The prisoner, I told you about the number of prisoners that we've received. At any one time, we have about 200,000 individuals in jail for the federal government. Now, some people say, see, we're an American. We're a nation of prisons. All we do is incarcerate people. And we do a lot. And I'm not going to debate whether that's good or bad, because that's for another time. But I can tell you this, the majority of the people that we arrest at the U.S. Marshals level are individuals who have proven track records, have had severe criminal activity, and they've gone through a whole large process before they ever come into our hands. I think it's a little different than picking up the town drunk or the person out of their home for getting a little out of line. Witness security, I touched on that briefly. We started originally in 1971. Witness protection. Some of you maybe saw Tommy Lee Jones' movie about the U.S. Marshal and how they were protecting somebody in that particular one. Since 1971, the United States Marshal Service has protected over 19,000 witnesses and their family members. That's a big, important undertaking. And we've done it right here in Iowa. Every state in the country has to do with them. I know I'm cut on time here, so I'm kind of jumping around. I guess the bottom line on it is, from my philosophy, I started in law enforcement at a time when I got a chance to learn the importance of being a mirror to the people that you deal with, whether they're good or bad. Be a mirror to them. Look at inside and see what they are. I can remember days of fights, having shirts tore off of me, bar fights, and seeing the guy in those days a week later and having to apologize. It's a different time today. I've been able to, hopefully in my 45 years, mentor people like I was mentored. I mentioned those people in Vietnam. How many people here have heard of a guy by the name of Bob Rice? Maybe a few of you? When I was appointed, I took over an agency that had some major problems, major litigation. My predecessor was forced to retire. And I'm not going to get into what exactly happened there. But I'll never forget, the secretary buzzed me. Remember the old buzz? He pushed the button. And, "Hi, Ted." I said, "Hi, Eunice, how are you?" She goes, "I'm really good. Bob Rice is on the phone." And I have to tell you, I was a cop from Iowa. I had shot competitively, won some national championships, was pretty lucky. And I shot with Polk County people. And I said, "Oh, Bob Rice, who the heck is that?" Didn't equate to Sheriff Bob Rice. And I picked up the phone, pushed the button, one that's flashing, right? And I heard, "Hello, Sheriff Bob Rice." I thought, God, the guy called me sheriff. That's pretty cool. I mean, I'm young and just in office. I said, "Hello, Mr. Rice, how can I help you?" "Son, that's Sheriff Rice." "Bob Rice." "Oh, okay, yes, sir, how can I help you?" "Son, it's how can I help you?" Now, please bear with me. Cops talk a little rough, and I'm trying to keep this a little clean. And those who maybe knew Bob will understand. He says, you took over an S-hole there in an agency. I want you to know that. I'm well aware of it. But he says, Armstrong and Fergie and Ballou say you're a good boy. That's good enough for me. Now, I haven't met you at all, so they might be lying to me. I don't know. But I want to let you know that anything I can do, just let me know. And I said, well, I think I can handle it. He said, you don't know a damn thing about being civil, do you? I said, no, sir, I don't. Pardon my French, please. He said, well, I'll send Armstrong up to your camp as long as you need to set up your civil department. Wow, thank you. He says, anything else you need? I said, no, Mr. Rice. That's Bob Rice, or Sheriff Bob Rice. No, sir, Sheriff, I appreciate it. Bob Rice became my mentor. He and Jackie were close friends. If you're at his funeral, you saw me shed tears. What a great man. I learned the importance, and some people may argue this, because politics is politics, okay? I learned the importance of honesty, of truth, of being upfront, being yourself, accepting the fact you're far from perfection, knowing you're gonna screw up, knowing that you're just part of humanity and society, and accepting the fact that you can't please everybody. My first election that year, I'll never forget. I ran against a guy who almost beat my predecessor. I got 87% of the vote. And I said, wow. And I remember my wife looking at me saying, what the heck's wrong with you? I can't believe 13% of the people hate me. I told Rice that before, and he walked away from me, shaking his head. if I give you anything at all, know that there are men and women out there in law enforcement who are dedicated, who care. They're not perfect. Like every one of your departments, every one of your agencies, every one of your businesses, there are troubled people. Help those of us who maybe are trying to clean it up and get it together. Help us do a better job. We're gonna do that because that's all we have. Whether it's at the local, state, or national level, we're gonna try to do our best job. And understand we're gonna goof up along the way. There's a lot of fear out there. Nobody wants to have their kids go to school and have their friends talk about the fact of how their daddy went ahead and shot somebody, even if it was a justifiable shoot, and hear the grief they get. That's what young cops have got to face. And that's what's making it so difficult for us today to get good people. So I want to thank you very much. My message is really simple. Hi, I'm Ted Comanches. Hi, I'm your marshal. Oh, by the way, some of you kind of went, ugh, when you heard that Trump appointed me. I was the very first marshal appointed by President Trump. And I came out of the Judiciary Committee with unanimous, Republicans, Democrats. Klobuchar actually co-endorsed me. And I went through the Senate, 100% unanimous. I was really lucky with all those things. And my brother up in Minnesota, who was very proud to have his little brother, a U.S. Marshal, my brother who loves Gunsmoke, who has all the radio programs. You younger people can just Google that. All the radio programs about Gunsmoke and Matt Dillon, you know, and William Conrad, Cannon, and James Arness in TV. He was so proud of his little brother becoming U.S. Marshal. And I said, Gary, I said, I know. Your mom and dad, we're different dads. Your mom and dad would be very proud of you. And I said, thank you, Gary. He says he'd be really proud to have Matt Dillon in the family. And I said, well, Gary, it's just make sure he understands it's not James Arness. It's more of the William Conrad version, short and stocky guy. That's me. God bless you all. Thank you for the opportunity to come talk to you. And please, I wish you all the best in your futures. God bless you. Take care. Yeah, well, yes, please, by all means. I talked so long, I didn't know there was questions. No. Questions, I'll take them all. Understand, you may not like the answer. Sir?
Yeah, civil asset forfeiture, are you just handling the assets, or do you actually do forfeitures, and how is it where the money goes?
Okay. Basically, it's all done in court order. So if we take property, let's say we go ahead and do a raid on someplace, and we see all these things, guns or money, whatever it might be, we tend to take it all. If we take it and we secure it, of course we give receipts for it all. If there's a lot of expensive things, the order may say and or all other property, court order, we'll take those things. We take them, secure them, and then we give a receipt for it. Then the individuals have a right to go ahead and challenge that. That stuff, in our case, we don't house any of it here in Des Moines. Ours actually, they've regionalized it the last few years. Ours goes to Omaha, that's this region. And then all we really are is we're the kind of the courier and messenger. We serve the papers that say what we take. We come back and we actually, depend upon the way the attorneys and the courts work it out, we'll distribute it accordingly. But we do, most all the stuff gets cut, and by the way, they don't give police departments, diamonds or cars anymore. They'll just cut them a check for whatever the value is. So we do give those checks out though.
But do the marshals actually do the seizure, or is that like the FBI or other?
It depends. Some FBI, some DEA. When the drugs are hotter, DEA does a lot more.
But they flow them through?
It all floats back to us, yep, through the courts. And then we manage that whole thing. I'm sorry, yes. Yes, please.
I have a question of kind of coordination. You have a lot of divisions, and it's always hard for me to know where one starts and one stops.
We just run crazy.
Okay, well, so I'm just gonna give you a topic that's kind of new to me and maybe other people, but in Canada where they block the roads on the bridges, there's rumors they're going to come to different cities. So I wondered, do you have a best practice that comes down immediately?
Yeah.
Because it could happen really anywhere.
We have a division called TOD, It's one of those super secret ones. But no, what happens is we have response teams to handle it. We were in Portland. I'll tell you this, my chief deputy, young guy, I am very, very blessed. Let me tell you something, you all know this. I have had great staff as a sheriff. I have a great staff as marshal. My chief deputy is a young fella. When I took over, the top 5 senior people all went into mandatory retirement my first 6 months. And I'm going, I called headquarters and I said, well, what am I supposed to do? You'll get by, Ted, don't worry. So I did, I ran like a sheriff's office. I told my people, we're gonna have weekly meetings. I just set it up like I did as a sheriff. But I have some great staff now. He spent long days in Portland when they were attacking. And I'm here to tell you, they attacked the Portland courthouse. They shot missile type devices through the glass. They threw gas and white gas in there, and then they shot fireworks to follow it to try to burn our people out. I'm sorry. I'm not talking about the cause. Separate the cause and the ignorance. There's a difference there in that. Now, I'm not saying that they're not good people who maybe got wrapped up in emotionally and sucked into it. But TOD sent people over there to guard that. We were in Minneapolis. I know the guy who was the best man at Chauvin's wedding, who didn't like Chauvin, you know, who said that he was a problem child. And I'm just telling you, that's me personally, not as Marshall talking. So we do have people who respond to various things, whether it's a riot type of situation or whether it is, again, like you said, the highways. But we serve as a supplement to the locals. So they would call us in. Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Is there additional training now occurring because of the Chauvin thing with police officers? And first of all, I'd like you to know that this Rotary Club honors a fireman and police officer every year, just selected by their departments is a proud thing that we do. I appreciate your service to us.
Thank you very, very much. That means a lot. Yes. You know, we actually did it in the 90s. I sat on the COPS Consortium, which was the COPS program. Some of you remember that? And it was founded, it was the brainchild of Joe Biden, and it was signed in by President Clinton. And I was lucky enough to sit on as part of that process. And we got away from it. We got away from it in the late 90s because a lot of agencies just, they had some more activity pop up, you know, and they had to take people off. So we're trying to get back into doing more human relations training, if you will. I know for us, because we house inmates, we've always had it at the marshal's level, because like my jailers, when I ran a jail, those jailers had more human relations training, interactive training, than probably the people in the street did. I do know that there's a big push for it right now. And I have to tell you something else. I understand the media's big hype and people who are concerned about maybe putting more counselor type, social services type people, people who are more kind and caring and more direct to deal with the stresses that the person has. That's well and good, and I have no problem with that. You know, when I started in the 70s, the churches did it. I don't know whatever happened to that whole process. I saw a gentleman, you know, it's kind of scary, but I mean, that was a big thing at the time. But I don't know if I want to put those people into armed encounters. I want to try to train officers maybe to do a better job and you have the ability to do more of that seeing into a person. Does that make sense? And we're trying to do that more and more. I know the cross country. Somebody else over here, sir, right in the front.
How long is your term that you're?
Okay, you're appointed for 4 years and until replaced. So I can say this, I'll be up front. My name is put in for a replacement. I have the support of both senators. I've known President Biden for a number of years because of my work with him in the 90s. But I know politics. And I got this politically, and I may lose it politically, and I'm okay with that. I'll just go camp more often. Yes, sir.
With regard to the witness protection program, do you ever run into instances like on TV where folks want to reintegrate into society outside of the program?
And I have to tell you,
can they?
okay, real quickly. Nobody has to stay in that program. Okay, there's been a lot of notoriety about some big organized crime people from the East Coast who later got over here and got drinking too much and too much dope, and they ended up going free and wrote books and stuff. That happens. I mean, it's society, right? I can't communicate much on the program in general. Just know that few do, because most of the people who make that program, it's a protective thing for them, and they really truly don't want to get outside of it. But obviously, we're not like Stalag 13. We don't keep people in. It's up to them. They still have that freedom. Somebody right here, sir.
Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Marshall. Can you speak to the new federal courthouse? How will that help?
Thank you very much.
Do their job?
I skipped over part of that. We just opened a new federal courthouse in Council Bluffs. Maybe some of you saw that, some of you didn't. We were in the old post office there, and the roof was coming in on us. And I'm here to tell you, it was a dump. I hate to say it was. So that's a lease program, a lease building over there that they have long-term leasing. The one that's over here seems to be on schedule. It is still for spring of 2023. There's been some fluctuation on months on that. I don't want to speak outside of what GSA and what information I've gotten. It's a beautiful building. It's a beautiful location. Some people disagree with that. Myself as a marshal, I wanted it out in the back 40, spread out, and it could be hardcore concrete. That wouldn't have broke my heart at all. But I have no say in that part of it. So it is on schedule for spring of 23. Sir, right back there.
With regard to the problem of sex trafficking, which we understand to be an ongoing problem, to what extent, if at all, does your office get involved in law enforcement?
We get fully involved in it. I have an investigator that's dedicated to just that process. And like last year, in the last year plus, we actually recovered or discovered, because some people are older now, they don't want to be recovered, I hate to say that, 40-some people just from the state of Iowa. We worked with locals for that. We do, the sex offenders program. We do a monitoring process with locals on that. We do all of the internet crime, porn crime, human trafficking crime. I have investigators that do that also. And we work with the FBI on that, and locals. So it's there, it's real. It's a huge marketing thing. There's been a big problem with things coming north of the border, a lot of trafficking through that, and it's being spread throughout the country. So doesn't mean that they're all problems, that's all I'm saying. It just is, as you get more new people, your 1%ers go up. So yes, sir, we're involved with that totally. Sir?
Marshall, thank you. Wonderful presentation. You have an impressive career, an impressive resume. Could you share with us one of the more gratifying experiences that you've had being in law enforcement over your career?
There's been many actually. Little ones that people just talk about. Some have been young, not so young, officers coming to me that said they heard me talk to their high school, or heard me talk to them, or responded in a couple of cases to a domestic, who now were law enforcement officers themselves, who told me that it was because of the way I handled it, and that's gratifying. It really truly is. In my career, I have done a lot. I've been very blessed. I've held the hands of people who died. I've gone to the farm accidents where people were decapitated. I have held little kids' hands who begged not to let them die in car accidents because some drunk hit them. I've delivered children. I've been shot at, I've been stabbed. I've had things happen in my career. That's what happens. But I can say this, none of those people who I've arrested, and we had 0 all our enforceable felonies were cleared in Marshall County over my almost 30 years as sheriff. I've had none of those people ever hold a criticizing point to me, and several of them commended me for the way we did it. Not just me, but my staff, because those staff are extended me. One last thing to address this, now I'll shut up on it. We had a homicide that occurred. A farm wife up in northern Marshall County back in the 90s, early 90s, and 4 15-year-olds from Missouri. It was the Hauser case. 4 15-year-olds were the murderers. And I went ahead and like in most small agencies, I did the interviews with those people. And I brought those people up. And I got their confessions from them. And we just had them reappear because they were redoing the sentencing, because they had life in prison. And one of the hardcore twins, I say hardcore because of the level of crime he did, looked at me and he said, now he's the age that I was at that point. And he said, we still have a rubber match to do. I go, what? He says, we were 1-on-1 on horse and we were shooting baskets. I said, yeah, you're right about that. And he says, I want to let you know that I'm okay with doing life in prison. And because you told me the importance of no matter where I'm at, make the most of it and grow and prosper and be my best. And I screwed up as a kid. It's not the way he said it, by the way. And I hope that I can go ahead and have some success where I'm at today. And by the way, he has mentored a lot of people to get their GED. So those type of things, you don't forget those at all. And there's others, but thank you very much for your time. I know it's everything. I'll be around here. You can come up and ask me anything you want.
All right, thank you, Ted, for a fascinating program and for taking questions. We are donating a book in your honor through our Rotary Rosie Reader van. I can't wait till Matt has to say that. Through the Des Moines Public Library Foundation. Last year, our Rotary Club of Des Moines Foundation donated $40,000 to purchase that van through our community grant program. Upcoming meetings here at the Embassy Club. The next couple weeks, we have March 3rd, Kevin Foley from the Des Moines International Airport, and March 10th, Tanner Kraus from Come and Go. Please think about somebody who might enjoy hearing those or who might be a wonderful prospective member for our club and invite them to come. Remember, if you are coming to dinner or lunch, you need to register in advance, and same if you want to bring a guest by 9 a.m. on Wednesdays. Then as you see, you see spring break, I'll be skiing, woohoo! So that's not the only reason we're not meeting. All of you have lovely plans. I'm just on the ski countdown. March 17th, no meeting because it is spring break. Thank you so much for being with us today. Thank you to our guests, Eric, Kevin, Sean, Steve, and Joshua for being with us today, and we hope you decide to join us permanently. You'd be great additions to our club. That is everything. So we are adjourned. See you back here next week.